Welcome back to Her Campus at American University's podcast, Miss Education, where we talk about anything and everything we find passion in affecting college students and the world. We're excited you're joining us today, so let's get right into it. So today on mic, we have wonderful Gigi and also me, Wyatt, and we're going to be talking about what is going on in the world of Bachelor Nation, because it seems that every day there's something new. So we're just going to start with some general info. It's going to be a little long, but some general info about what is going on.
Yeah. So for those of you who might not know much about the Bachelor franchise overall, this is the 25th season of the show. Essentially, the show starts out with one man and 32 women, and the end goal is for the man to find one of the women to propose to, although only one bachelor actually has married the first woman he proposes to on the show. They also have the show The Bachelorette and The Bachelor in Paradise. The season is getting a lot of particular attention as the host of the show, Chris Harrison, has caught heat after an interview with a past contestant and the first ever Black Bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay, about the racial past attentions of one of the women on the season, Rachel Kirkconnell. We'll get into what happened in the interview and what happened with Rachel Kirkconnell in the past that sparked these conversations.
Yeah, but first, we just want to acknowledge that neither of us are women of color. In this episode, we're going to talk about some issues regarding racism that have happened within the Bachelor show. And so we just want to make it clear at the beginning that we're speaking on this from a really privileged perspective. And we'll try to give clear evidence and quotes on what actually happened in both Rachel's past and direct transcripts from the interview, as well as the direct quotes from the apologies and reactions from both the people involved and past contestants of color who've been on the show and who've spoken out about what's happening right now. So we just want to give that little disclaimer right at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And just to start getting into what happened with Rachel Kirkconnell, so she attended a plantation-themed frat party at Georgia College in 2018. She liked racist social media posts. And so in response to this, Chris Harrison did an interview with Rachel Lindsay to talk about the allegations against Rachel Kirkconnell and the show's response to it. During the interview, Chris Harrison said, and he quotes, "We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion. Because I've seen some stuff online, this judge, jury, executioner thing where people are just tearing this girl's life apart, diving into, like, her parents' voting record." He also said, "I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Until I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak, who am I to say any of this? I saw a picture of her at a sorority party 5 years ago, and that's it." And while he acknowledged that the photos were not a quote good look, he controversially said it is not a good look in 2018 or is it not a good look in 2021, directly to Rachel. He also continued, "My guess, these girls got dressed up and went to a party and had a great time. They were 18 years old. Now, does it make it okay? I don't know, Rachel, you tell me. We were all looking through, quote, that lens in 2018. He also called out for continuously interrupting Rachel Lindsay during the interview and for just generally being incredibly racially insensitive.
Yeah, so since that interview, Chris Harrison has put out an apology on his Instagram saying, quote, "To my Bachelor Nation family, I will always own a mistake when I make one, so I'm here to extend a sincere apology. What I now realize I have done is cause harm by wrongly speaking in a manner that perpetuates racism, and for that, I am so deeply sorry. I promise to do better," end quote. And if you want to read his full apologies, they're up on his Instagram, and we're going to have that link below the episode. Rachel Kirkconnell also has put out a statement as well as an Instagram video taking ownership of her past actions and has said that she hopes to earn people's forgiveness through her future actions. And to read her full statement and watch that video, they're also available on her Instagram, which is also going to be linked below. And then Bachelor Matt James from this season, who had that relationship with Rachel Kirkconnell, he's also made a statement about the difficulty of this time and how he'll speak more about it when he has time to process, also available on his Instagram, which will also be linked below.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of other past contestants and women from this recent season that have joined on the conversation, including Hannah Brown, Ali Fedowski, Jillian Harris, JoJo Fletcher, Claire Crowley, Dale Moss, Tasha Adams, and the Bachelor cast of season 16, who said, quote, "As members of season 16 of The Bachelorette, it is important that we acknowledge where we stand at this time. We had the opportunity to be a part of one of the most diverse casts in the history of the franchise. The addition of more people who identify as BIPOC have opened up that conversation on race, community, and who we are as people, a conversation that has long been overdue. We stand united in denouncing racist behavior and any defense thereof. We also stand united with the women of season 25 of The Bachelor who have denounced the same. Moreover, we stand united with Rachel Lindsay, who has led the way, as well as many others.
So, what has happened most recently since all of this has been going on? Because it's been a few weeks, I think probably like 3, maybe 4 weeks since all of this kind of started. Is recently Emmanuel Aucho, I don't want to mispronounce his name. I think that's how it's pronounced. He's the host of the YouTube channel, and he's also the best-selling author of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And he's going to be hosting the After the Final Rose special for this season of The Bachelor. And right now, it's pretty unclear about the future of Chris Harrison on the show, although many people are calling for his replacement. And Rachel Lindsay has also unfortunately deactivated her Instagram account because she was getting constant hate and harassment from Bachelor fans. And so Rachel Lindsay's friend and also the co-host of their Higher Learning podcast, his name's Van Lathan, posted a video defending the former Bachelorette and telling people to stop harassing her. He said, quote, "A 49-year-old man who can't read the room in these present 2021 times, she's not responsible for that. It's not her job to make excuses or provide cover for someone who doesn't understand what the fuck triggers people in today's world," end quote, which I really agree with. Also, since planning for this episode, there's been some more drama kind of disconnected from this, but Taylor Nolan, who was a contestant on a season of The Bachelor a few years ago, has also gotten some attention recently after some tweets from her from 2011 from her Twitter account have gotten, there was like a Reddit post essentially that was talking about these tweets that she had that were anti-Semitic, fat-phobic, homophobic, Islamophobic. There's just
Oh,
a lot of not, yeah, a lot of not great stuff. And she has since she put out this like 30-minute long Instagram TV apology thing. And she said it was specifically for her BIPOC community, but people were kind of calling her out on that, saying it was not just people of color that you offended. It was also Jewish people and people who identify with the LGBTQ plus community. And so she also has been putting out some apologies and stuff on her Instagram, which we'll link below. But so that's another thing going on, just kind of separate, but kind of also part of everything that is slowly unraveling in Bachelor Nation.
Yeah, so now that we've gone over a lot of what happened, gave you guys the background information, covered a lot of statements from people involved, as well as what really matters in this, the voices of people of color, I think we should definitely just start breaking it down a little bit. So we'll start off with, should Chris Harrison leave the show? This has been a big question to everybody with the last month. So I guess, Wyatt, if you might, do you want to start off, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, again, like we were saying in the, well, we kind of said this in the beginning, but I think a lot of what we need to consider is that like these apologies from Rachel Kirkconnell and from Chris Harrison and stuff like aren't for us as white people. Like we're not the ones affected by what she did and what he did. And I feel like ultimately it's probably not our decision to just, well,
Yeah.
obviously, like who's going to listen to us about if we think he should leave or not. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it will. I could see them asking him to leave. I don't know like what his contract stuff is or what, but I think that people would be very upset if he stayed.
I definitely agree. I feel like, again, this is not our decision to make and completely our place to decide. But, and I guess, sorry, this is a little off track, but I mean, he's been on the show for the whole time and it's been 25
For
seasons. That's a
so
long
long.
time. That's a big fan
Yeah.
base of people that have been there for a long time. And also Bachelor and Bachelorette, they have like a lot of money. Like they have this big, it's a big thing, a big company.
Yeah.
So I think the
Yeah.
actual show isn't really, unfortunately, going anywhere. But I think Chris Harrison maybe unfortunately thinks with, that's a lot of privilege right there, is that he can probably just stay. I think all he said right now is that he's just going to step aside, and work on himself and
See what
come back.
happens. Yeah.
Exactly. But unfortunately, I think that's just not enough because that's just going to like push the issue under the rug. And then just because he comes
Right.
back after maybe like one season and they'll everybody maybe thinks everybody will be like, "Oh, we want Chris Harrison back," and then they'll act like nothing happened. Like, that's that's definitely not
Right.
okay, you know? Going
Yeah, and then you think about, like,
yeah,
future contestants who may be, like, women or men of color, and, like, is that gonna be a comfortable
yeah,
environment for them to come into? Who knows? So, yeah, I could see them I always kind of heard that or always kinda hoped that Wells I don't know if you know who he is. He's like the bartender. He was on
I remember.
Bachelorette, and he he's like the bartender now on Bachelor in Paradise,
I'll look it
and
up.
he's like the best, right? I think people have talked about how he should take over as host, but I mean, I don't know. I think they'll probably end up getting a new host. I just don't know how they could
Well,
come back
yeah,
from this, and they'd
exactly.
face so much backlash if they have him come back. They'd be like whatever it is. I think it's ABC, right, or something. I think they just face a
And
lot of backlash, and people would probably a lot more people would stop watching
I
if they have him
definitely
come back. But
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I
people
think
are like,
we'll
"We'll never be able to" sorry, what'd you say?
no, 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 go ahead.
Like, I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, it's Chris Harrison, you can't replace him," but yeah, after this, you definitely should, and it might be hard, but it's definitely time, and I
Right,
I don't know, I'll stop watching if he stays. It's just
right,
doesn't
and I
feel
mean, they already found a great replacement for him for after the Final Rose, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people who would wanna
yeah,
do that job.
I forgot
We
about
will
that.
see,
That'd be interesting to s do you know who it is?
yeah. Yeah, it's, I was saying earlier, Emmanuel O Acho,
Oh,
yeah, Emmanuel Acho, it's Acho is his last
oh,
name.
yeah.
He does that YouTube channel, the
Oh, got
Uncomfortable
it.
Conversations with a Black Man. Um, so I'm sure he'll be great at that. Maybe they'll make him I don't know if he wants to be a permanent host of
Yeah, he's a
Bachelor,
former NFL
but
football player. I don't know.
yeah, but we'll see. But I guess also just wanna talk about, like, what else can the Bachelor franchise do to better itself? Like, thinking about who's getting the airtime, like, the diversity of the contestants on the show, that kinda stuff. I don't know your thoughts on all that.
Definitely. I think it's a big question to tackle because they've honestly been doing the same thing since the beginning, unfortunately, with
Mhm.
I mean, we just recently had the first Black Bachelor, which is not a lot of progress since the beginning, and that's I
Right.
definitely think they need to have more, diversity in not only the Bachelor or Bachelorette, but the contestants, and not I
Yeah.
guess, trying to figure this out and, like, how to word it, but the airtime and not just treating everyone I don't know if you're trying to if you're getting, like, what I'm saying right now, but not purposely being like, "We have this many people of color. How about just be like,
Right.
the contestants we have."
Not tokenizing
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly, that's the perfect word to explain it. It's kind of finding
Yeah.
yeah, I guess just like that, and then honestly, it's a big thing to tackle, and I'm not sure of, like, specific things, if you have any, like,
Yeah.
ideas.
Well, okay, I was trying to find this. My sister was telling me they, like, broke down who got the most airtime,
Ah,
and it was, like, consistently and that's, like, for this season, they broke it down, and it was consistently that, like, the white women were getting more airtime,
really?
and I think that also is because when you had, like, Victoria,
Yeah,
who was,
oh my god,
and, like, all the, like, mean girls in the house and all the ones the producers, I'm sure, were like, "This is what's gonna get us the ratings."
exactly.
They were all white women, but I also think that that's, like, I think this season and then last season of Bachelorette, like, the contestants, I think it was way more racially diverse,
Definitely,
but at the same time, who's being shown, who's getting the chance to, like, speak and, like, whose
yes,
dates are shown, whatever, so I think it's also a question of, okay, if you're now gonna bring in more women of color or men of color onto the show, you have to be, like, showing them. You can't just
yeah,
only show the white contestants. Yeah, so basically
like
same
with
thing. You
anyone
can't just
else.
yeah, exactly. Also just the whole question of, like, gender on the show
Yeah,
too, because I think it's important to look at, like, intersectionally, which, I mean, we're kinda just talking about, but I don't know what you think about, like, the portrayal of women versus men, bachelor versus bachelorette, like, all that kinda stuff.
literally, every episode, I don't know, I notice it every episode, it's just the way that they portray the woman is very I mean, last season there was so much fighting. Well, this season's not over yet, but there's
Mhm,
so much crying, and then it'd go to, like, fighting, and then kind of portraying them as women as very emotional and just caring about, like and then, Matt would come along and they'd put them as like, "Oh, well, Matt's here and, like, he saved us and, like, he'll take care of it," and then they go back to fighting. It's
mhm,
a very negative, false portrayal of a woman, and then I remember on The Bachelorette when it was a girl that was with all the male candidates, the men would be super muscular and, like,
right,
they would just be like, "Oh, well, Hannah's so hot," like, stuff kinda like that, like
mhm.
Hannah Brown like, that was just one season I thought of, but, like
Oh, the smoke show or whatever
yeah.
for Tasha.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the activities they have for the women to do versus the guys, I don't remember specifically what it would be like with the guy candidates, but, like, the girls, they'd be like, "Oh, they're running around like, oh my god, she's" I don't know if that explained it very
Yeah.
well, but I kinda sit there and watch it, I'm like, "Wait a second, this just doesn't feel really
Yeah.
right." Like, I don't
It's also just weird because it's, like, weird for both like, in Claire/Tasha,
yeah,
'cause that was weird, but their
yeah,
season,
yeah.
it was, like, people were getting on them a lot about, like, objectifying the men, making them do the, like, strip dodgeball, which that was a whole thing with Yusuf and whatever, which was horrible,
Yeah.
but, like and he was super misogynistic and sexist to her,
Yeah.
and then yeah, that was horrible, but then also, like, I was saying like, this is the first season I think I haven't and I think it's 'cause they're in, like, Pennsylvania and it's, like, cold as shit, but, like, this is the first time I haven't seen, like, a bikini pool party where
Oh
there's
my god,
just, like, this one
literally.
dude and his, like, 20 women all,
Yeah.
like, basically naked all around him, like, that is a big part of it too, and you also wanna be like, let these women do what they want, wear what they want,
Yes,
like, that's empowering, but also at the
definitely.
same time, yeah, they do portray them in this way that, like, the producers are only gonna show they don't ever show the, like, normal interactions or, like,
Yes.
them being silly or, like, whatever, it's always, like, full makeup,
Yeah,
sexy dress, them
yes,
crying, them
dresses
yelling
they
at each
wear,
other, them
like
being terrible.
yeah, their hair and back to what you said about the bikini, that's an interesting point, and most of the women everyone's beautiful and everyone's but they always pick people that look like what we expect women to look
Right.
like, if that makes sense.
Oh,
They
100%.
look
It's
really,
always
like, perfect and, like,
right.
really skinny and, like, probably and
I know.
it's
Yeah, me and my sister always joke, we're like, we would literally never get on this
exactly.
show, like, they're all
Yeah,
just like which I mean, totally fine, no shame in that,
exactly,
like,
no
your
shame,
body's
like,
amazing,
go
go
for
for
it.
it, but yeah, but they do and for men too, like, they tend to
Yes, the
pick
guys are,
very
like, muscular
muscular,
with abs.
yeah, very
Yeah,
stereotypically attractive, and so, I don't know. It's very weird, and I know that the whole point of the show is, like, marriage, but also can we just talk about generally in the show, it's ridic like,
yes,
how are you about you've never lived with this person, you've
literally,
known them for, like I think the show's, like, 3 months or something,
maybe?
and it's basically it's a failure if you don't propose to them at the end, and I'm always like, it seems like a very normal thing to me that you'd be like, "This is the person I pick, but I wanna go date them," you know? Like, I
Really,
don't wanna be engaged to this person, I don't know them. But I guess that's the point of the show, but I think it should just, in the future, be more accepted that, like,
yeah, of
you don't wanna end in proposal, but you wanna end in a relationship with that person, but
course.
you wanna take it outside of, like, being filmed
Yeah,
24/7, you
the
know?
world that they have, because 'cause they're only in that world of The Bachelor for 2, 3 months, and then they have to get married and then, like, go in the real world, which is completely different, and
Right.
I completely agree, I think that's a good idea for the future seasons if they want us that what they need to start doing is making it less focused on marriage. Also because I don't know, maybe it's our generation, but I feel like we're really less focused on marriage and especially, like, kids, and more just focused on
Mhm.
ourselves, but also finding, like, what we could just quote as, like, a partner and then a relationship, like,
Right.
not just it's weird to me, I think, because marriage, like
Yeah.
marriage is
Bizarre.
I don't know, and especially I think in the women's season, this one I was watching again, those moments where I'm watching it and questioning it is, like, they'll be sitting there, they'll be like, "I can just really picture having kids with him." It's like, "Well, what about, doing this with him?" Like, or for you, like, do you wanna, like, do this?
Yeah.
Like, what do you wanna do? Or maybe with him, but is he gonna do this for you? Like it's you don't have to give
Yeah.
them kids. It's just
And a lot of
yeah.
times, like, the season ends and I realize I know, like, genuinely nothing about anyone on the show. Like,
Literally,
I'll know,
oh
like, this
god.
was their job, this was their biggest trauma. That's another thing too, is he'll be like, date 1, the first one-on-one or the first, like, or second conversation, he's like, "Be vulnerable with me." And he, like,
Yeah.
or she, like, they expect this intense
What's your favorite
vulnerability
color
without
first
that.
maybe?
Right, like, without that buildup of trust, and then on national television, they have to
Yeah.
talk about their, like, most traumatic story. Like, I remember on Tayshia's season, like, the guy Ben who talked about, like, his struggles with, like, mental health and,
Yeah.
like, feeling suicidal and stuff, and that was hard for him to talk about, and she, like, almost sent him home because he didn't wanna be vulnerable. And it's like, maybe he doesn't wanna talk about,
On national
like, a really
television.
dark personal part of his life. Yeah, on national television when he's known you for a month. Like,
Exactly.
this forcefulness of vulnerability, and you know, I'm sure that in the application thing, you either need to be the one that they're gonna portray as the crazy bitch,
Yep.
or you need to be the one who has intense, like,
Some
trauma, you
drama,
know?
something that will add some spice that they can, like, capitalize
Something that'll make you interesting,
if
exactly.
not, they, like, drive
So
you home.
or you just won't get any airtime or whatever it is. And then you see that like Brittany from this season who she was the one who the rumor went around that she was an escort. And
I was just thinking about that, yeah.
yeah, and, like, I did love that she on the, Women Tell All, she was, like,
Yeah,
talking which I appreciated she did, was saying how it's totally fine if you are an escort, but that's not that's not what she does, and that, like, it has really changed her reputation, like, if you look her name up, you
yeah,
know, now, like so it's just, like, that these are real live people, but also at the same time, you're choosing to go on the show, you can watch the 25 past seasons and kind of know where you're getting yourself into a little bit.
yeah,
So it's hard of, like, that accountability, but also just, like, I don't know. The show could definitely do a better job. Like, I was thinking the whole Britney thing of, like, how it's kind of really deeply affected her life. The editors are the ones who chose to keep that in, you know?
exactly,
And then they
exactly.
blame all the women, and they're like, "I can't believe you did this." And it's like, if you care that
You
much,
filmed
edit
it
it
and
out.
recorded it.
Right. You literally filmed it all and then chose to make it a central storyline.
Yes, they
Like,
also exactly
people are
that
also to
episode, they just
blame.
kept focusing on that.
Right. So, yeah. I think, yeah. It's just, like, problematic in so many ways. But then, like, why do we keep
I
watching?
know, okay, I was
Like
I then I'm like, "Okay, here I am every Monday I don't even do
right.
homework, and, like, I always watch it. I always do it, and I'm
I
like,
know.
"Man, this is so bad," because, first of all, we're giving them more views, and we're just giving it more talk. Because in the end, everybody's just talking about The Bachelor, and they're like, "Well, I guess I'll just watch it now," and that's why it keeps going.
No. Yeah. It's hard because it's like you know, we'll talk all this shit about it, but then we'll watch it on Monday, which, you know, I think
At 8
it's
PM, every
right, right. We know, we'll be there. Like, I think it's like a release a little bit, like, it feels so far away from reality, it's so ridiculous in some ways, and it just feels like a place where you can just be like, I don't know, you just escape a little bit, and,
Yeah,
like, you can talk shit about it and, like, whatever. And I'm also, like, sometimes you're watching, I'm like, "I'm a mean person," like, after
I
the
do
stuff I,
that same.
like,
My
think
roommates
about
and
the
I will just be, like, talking so much shit or, like, so into it.
yeah,
I'm like, "This isn't even that deep, but I'm so invested." Or if you meet someone
right,
for the first time and, like, you know that they watch Bachelor, Bachelorette, you could talk about it for, like, hours. It's a great way to, like, I don't know, just talk to people and, like, when you hang
I
out with
know.
someone, I don't know.
It's so controversial because
Why and,
it's
like,
so
why though?
insanely
Literally just
ridiculous.
yeah, it's just the stupid, like, Bachelor, but we're so like, if someone will say something about my favorite character too, oh my god, like, when Katie left,
Like,
people were like,
oh
"Why
my
do you even
god,
like
Katie,
that broke?" And
I
Abigail
loved her.
Katie and Abigail, when they left, I was so sad
Oh my
because
god,
they were actually so great. Katie was I
yeah,
literally this kinda goes back to earlier parts in conversation though. She was so honest in being like, "This is just so dramatic and not right. This is bullying." And that's why I literally
this
also
is
she had
tough,
the
yeah.
vibrator. I literally love that.
I know, she yeah, and then on the Women Tell All, how they were trying to, like,
Yeah.
act like Chelsea was literally like, "The house wasn't toxic until you said it was toxic."
Like, what did
I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
you
what I mean, I know that there's more than meets the eye with this stuff because obviously we only watch what the producers, like, want us to watch, but it definitely seemed like there was some mess up stuff. Also, okay, there was this one scene where, when Heather came
Oh my
and the girls
yes,
went
that was
at her. Like,
awful, that made me so
it was
sad.
I know. Because like, I didn't really care that much about Heather, but, like, the
Me neither.
girls were horrible to her, like, immediately,
And when the
and
study group came too, later,
oh, yeah,
it was
yeah.
ridiculous.
But what's so crazy was, like, when Heather whatever, they were terrible to her, she left crying, and then Matt
Yeah.
came out and was like, "Thank you guys for handling that with such grace, like, you guys
Right?
really show what I want in life." And I was like, "Are you joking me?"
Bro,
Like, they were just terrible, like, Piper was so mean to her.
mean. Oh my
I was just
god,
like, "I can't believe this."
it was I
So,
forgot about that. There were so many moments and just, like, snarky things, and, like, these are grown women, and I'm like,
yeah.
how are we treating with each other? I don't know if you feel like this, but after the I mean, we are in the pandemic, but, like, after this pandemic, I feel, like, just more empathetic towards people, and I'm like,
Mm,
"Bro, we've all been through it. Why are we being so mean?" Also, this
I
also,
know.
Matt isn't even that he's just Matt.
I know.
Like,
It was just ridiculous. People were I don't know, I feel like they made I don't know if it was the women on this season, like, I don't know if it was the editing or if it was really just the wo but there were some like, the drama on this season and, like, the aggression and attitude
yeah,
was off the charts this
I
season.
think it was
Like,
insane.
the women were terrible to each other.
And then you didn't even
It was
know
crazy.
anything about Matt in the end, or even the girls, the nice, like,
No,
Bachelor girls. I didn't know anything about them until, like, last week.
no. Mhm. Not at all.
That, like, would be another conversation was the fantasy suites. I'm surprised I forgot to
Mm.
but, like, that's
Oh
another
my god,
part
yeah.
of it, kinda back to, like, marriage and stuff. They're like, "Okay, you guys are gonna have sex tonight." Like, I don't know, man.
Okay. Yeah, or then if they do, like, remember on Hannah's season when Luke basically, like, called her a slut
Yes!
for having sex? "I wouldn't wanna end up with you if you had sex with one of those other guys in the fantasy suite."
Like,
I loved how she stood up for herself,
I
like, that was
remember that. Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
That was awesome. But yeah, the whole fantasy suite thing is kinda I mean, but part of me is also like, totally, I get that.
Yeah,
Like,
like, you
I don't
wanna have
really
that
want
moment.
to have sex with the person I'm gonna potentially marry. Like, I wanna, test the waters a little
Exactly,
bit.
be like, "Do I
But then
even like th" yeah.
right.
Or then
But
they
there's
have
definitely more of a slut shaming thing I
yes, yes,
put on the bachelorettes than there is the bachelor
guys.
in those
The guys are like,
situations.
"Oh, I'm this big macho guy, like, I'm gonna" like, you know what I mean? Then this girl, it's like, "We're having"
Yeah.
yeah, like, "Matt," or whatever, and then or they'll do, like, "I'm a virgin," like, "I'm a whole" you know, remember that
Mhm.
in the past season?
And that's their whole identity.
Yes, like, Colton
There's always,
was
like,
a virgin.
one person a season who's
Yeah,
a virgin, and that's, like sometimes they'll even put that as, like, their job title, on their little thing with their name.
yes,
Like
literally,
like Colton, his whole thing was being a
being
virgin,
a
and, like,
virgin
Heather's whole thing about never having kissed
and
someone,
kissing
and, like,
someone.
there's all this weird toxic stuff about sex on the show,
And it's like,
and
do
I'm like, "You
whatever you
literally have
want.
these people like,
Yeah,
you have this man dating 30 women, and you're so worried about a penis and a vagina, like, are you
mhm.
kidding me? That's your biggest concern right now?
Literally
Like, they're all half naked in a pool together, but God forbid they wanna have sex.
literally, or
Like
touch each other or give each other a fucking hug, like, it's
right,
bad.
right.
Just do
And
whatever
it's
you
like,
want.
they will right, and the win like, it's happened with Madison, I think it's probably gonna happen with Rachel too, that, like, it's not a problem until fantasy suites, like, they are okay with him dating these other women until they get to spend the night together, and I'm like,
Yeah,
he's been having, like, intimate conversations, like, hanging out with these women all day, kissing them, hugging them, touching them, like, but it's
yeah,
only once you know that they can be having sex that you have a problem with it, and I think it's
exactly.
just a weird and also that's different, I guess, because it's at the end of the time, and it's like they've really built up a relationship, and it is weird, but yeah, I don't know. It's or when he meets the family and he says the same things to
I
each of the
know.
parents, it's like I'm just like, "What are you doing, dude? You're gonna send one of these women home at the end of the
And
week,
you're
like,
doing this
thank
with
you
their
for giving
family?
Serena laugh," but
Literally. When they're always oh my gosh, I don't know if you think about this, but they'll be like, "I'm falling in love with you," and, like, this whole concept of
God.
falling in love. I don't think you can fall in love, first of all, with
No.
people at once.
Oh, me neither.
You know what? That
Thank you.
yeah, I just that's not psychologically
Or
possible. So,
I could see myself falling in love
yeah,
with you.
I really
What does
appreciate
that
you
even
saying
mean?
that. It's like, "What?" But also, they also capitalize that on a lot being like, "Are you falling for him? Like, are you in love?" I'm like, "Girl, how are you in love with
Yeah,
him already?" Or, like, they're like, "You
I know.
love him." Like, I don't know, it's weird.
Right, and if you don't have that big of feelings in that short amount of time, he'll send you home
Yeah,
because 'cause you're not serious about it or something,
it's
Like,
ridiculous because it's
and then you
not.
you see it in, like, Serena P when
Yes,
she
so
went home on her own volition because she was like, "I'm not where all these other girls are
true.
at," and there's no time to, like, validate or think about or talk about your feelings
Yeah,
when you're literally given 2 hours a day with this man that you're potentially gonna marry. Like, I
yeah,
would bet at the end of the season, the final 2 women have probably spent, like, a total of, like, 48 hours with him.
that's
Like, I'd be shocked
ridiculous.
if it was more.
Exactly,
Like
though, they spend actually no time with each other, and then the time they have okay, also the conversations, the way they talk to each other is very it feels kind of scripted, they barely have time to actually just be, like, themselves, if that makes
right.
sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
I wonder behind the scenes, like, what their conversations are like, because they must, like I think he is, like, right now, as the show is right now, what's aired, he seems, like, super into I don't know how much as much about Brie, which love
I
Brie, she
love
is
Brie.
gorgeous, but, like, he seems super into Rachel and super
I
into
was just
Michelle,
gonna say
and
it.
but it's just, like, they must have conversations,
Same.
when the camera's not rolling, or just stuff that they choose not to show that we don't get to see
Yeah,
because, like, just based on what we see, no idea how they could wanna marry each other, like,
yeah, especially with
they seem
Rachel,
like strangers, it's
it's
bizarre.
very bizarre, and then I mean, especially with Rachel, I mean, it's tricky because we obviously know everything now, which is also
Right,
interesting to see what happens maybe because they can't talk about it right now.
right, I mean, I know the spoilers, but I won't say it.
You know
For all of our
spoilers?
listeners, I won't
My
spoil it for
gosh,
you.
wait, you know? Okay, well, obviously, I don't
Yeah,
wanna know, but how is that
if you wanna
how did
know,
you know?
look at Reality Steve, he always has all the gossip, so, yeah. He's, like, known for being the one who always, like, spoils the show.
How do they even know?
I have no idea. He must have eyes everywhere, but yeah. Anyways, super weird and problematic in a variety of different ways. I don't know if you have any final thoughts on that, Gigi, but
Like, final thoughts of the episode before we wrap up?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we are all I feel like in the end, a lot of us that will watch it are overall on the same page, and I definitely think Chris should leave, and
yeah,
I hope he does. If not, I hope I hate this word, but fan base of Bachelor Nation
yeah,
will push to, get him to leave at least, and then going in the future, I hope they capitalize less on marriage and the girls being, super emotional stuff and just the girls being women, not girls, but them being women and empowered and like accomplished. And then same with the guys being less, big in this having more emotions. I liked how Ben, even though it was very personal,
mhm,
I liked how they had that mental health conversation. But
yeah,
just more of that, humanizing it. And I just hope going forward we're held
100%.
accountable for their actions, even if it happened a year ago or 10 years ago to always be held
Right,
accountable and not just apologize and like do that, the video thing and like film it, but go for it and really change their actions. And yeah, I
right.
thought that was a really good conversation though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with all of your points. So that just about sums up our
Yeah.
episode. Thank you all for listening and staying tuned for more episodes coming up. We would like to thank Isabel Thompson, our amazing editor, and everyone who's on our podcast team. And if you'd like to hear anything else from Her Campus at AU, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Her Campus AU and keep up to date with Miss Education. Also, check out AU Her Campus articles on the Her Campus page under the American University tab. All right, y'all. All of our stuff that we talked about is going to be linked below. And thanks for listening.